YMCA as a senior youth support worker. I'm grateful to be able to present here today at the Hope Hack event and have the opportunity to share my story with you. So thank you to everyone who was involved in planning the event and obviously everyone that attended. So as mentioned, my name's Emily, I'm 23 and I'm originally from Croydon in South London. It's a horrible picture of me, that's all I can find. I lived in Croydon with my mum, my dad and my twin brother and sister. My brother went into the army as a mechanic and was eventually deployed to Afghanistan. My sister moved to Northern Ireland and did heroin. I had a good early childhood, going on holidays and being with friends, and I was the only child since I was 6. I was part of the police cadets in London and I exceeded really, really well. I was promoted as a team leader and I absolutely loved police cadets. So I had an aspiration to join the police as most of my family were either in the armed forces or the blue light personnel. However, I met a guy online and things started to spiral. Go back, sorry. Thank you. So yeah, when I turned 14, I met an older guy online who was from the same area as me, and we started talking. He was 20. We eventually met up and obviously saw each other quite a lot, and this happened over a span of a couple of weeks. A few weeks later, I just want to say, obviously, if things are triggering, you can leave, it's fine. I do talk about things that are quite personal to me, but I feel like it's important to share and be real. So a few weeks later, I woke up with the hives, which is like a skin rash. I felt quite poorly and I went into A&E with terrible pain and they did tests. I remember they asked my mum to leave the room so they could ask me questions. They told me I was pregnant and asked so many questions it felt like white noise. I was in shock. I'm only 14 years old. My parents were in disbelief and wanted to know what happened. My brother and sister came down because they were living in Germany and Northern Ireland because of the news. It was a whirlwind of emotions. I was booked into the GP to discuss a termination, which I felt was explained to me, but at the time I couldn't process anything. I felt so alone and lost with life that I felt like I let my family down and that they hated me. Rightly so, they didn't know what to say to me, but I was a young person in desperate help. I had my termination booked for the 4th of July 2016. I remember having a scan and them not allowing me to see the baby and being told protesters would be outside, so don't speak to them. I remember the last words I said to my mum before I went into the operation theatre was, I need a new coat. This just shows that I'm completely unaware of the trauma that's in front of me. The police were also present as they were waiting to take my baby to the lab for DNA testing in order for a conviction. I was put to sleep during the operation. I was sent home the same day. I was in a lot of pain and had to stay in bed. At this point, I'd missed so much of school. I had no phone to tell any of my friends what had happened. The police came and spoke to me about the incident, as obviously it was a criminal offence. The police treated me as if I was to blame for this due to my mature nature and my body being presented as an older female. I absolutely hated the police and was terrified every time they came round to discuss the case. I was then told my baby was transferred to the Great Ormond Street Hospital and my local hospital for testing, but they couldn't find any of his DNA, which to this day I believe was false. My perpetrator was on bail and wasn't allowed to see me. However, he managed to find me and things started to continue. He beat me up and broke both my legs because I refused to do as he said. The result of this case took over a year of pleading with the police to tell me the outcome, as I was never informed. They just sent me an email with bullet points of the results. He was found not guilty for the first part, which was impregnating me, but was found guilty of the second. He was only put on tag for a month, had to pay a £100 victim surcharge. I felt completely let down. My mental health deteriorated and I started running away. I felt like I wanted him back, but I knew I couldn't, so I had to try and find it in someone else. This would cause issues for me as I started to engage with older people who were involved in gangs and started to get involved with drug handling and county lines. I was assessed by the Met Police as high-risk CSC and MISPA due to the situations I was involved in. I'd go missing for weeks and often found in places young people should never be in. I've been sexually assaulted, groomed for most of my childhood due to my vulnerabilities, my poor mental health and my lack of self-esteem. The last situation involved an older male sexually assaulted me while I was asleep. The videos and photos were described as horrific by the officers who dealt with the case. This case would cause more damage than I expected. I was put into care outside of London, to Bedford, to Peterborough, to Wisbech, and I'd still go missing or get involved in trouble, so I was put into a secure unit for 6 months. During those 6 months, I saw girls hang themselves, face serious crisis. It was literally a prison. The doors are locked, you had to earn the privilege for a TV remote or even to have clothes in your room. Is this how victims of crime, regardless if they put themselves in danger, should be treated? However, the day I was released, I refused to leave. I was hysterical, I was institutionalised, I was afraid of the normal world because I felt safe and never had to look over my shoulder. I couldn't even open a car door, and I was physically sick out of fear, but this took a couple of weeks to wear off. I was turning 16 and knew I had to make a decision: go back to London, merge back into my old ways, or start a new life for myself. Randomly, I wanted to go Birmingham for shopping for my birthday, but was refused by social care due to the risk, so I had to pick between Leicester or Nottingham. So I picked Nottingham. I loved the shopping and the trams, and it just felt like being back in Croydon. I told my social worker that I would love to move to Nottingham as a fresh start, and was sort of laughed at as if this young girl who's done nothing but cause trouble for herself, the family, the police and social services wanted to get her life straight. Sorry, just skip through these ones, sorry. Skip. This one, thank you. I personally applied to Nottingham College on the Level 2 Public Service course, but was told I had to stay in Nottingham when I started. So that means I had to go with my support worker and drive 2 hours to college, there 2 hours back, to prove that I wouldn't pose a risk or fall victim of CSC again. I did this for 3 months. It was so challenging, getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and giving everything I got in class. I finished the course after a year, no laptop, no anything, had to write everything by hand, move in and COVID, and I was awarded a distinction star, the highest grade in my class. I eventually moved to Nottingham, and I was referred to a support service. This support service is youth outreach. Ramel, who's in the audience right now, was my support worker. He met me at 16 and listened to my concerns and supported me. I told him I hated the police and I'm not sure if I should trust them, but he persevered with me, took me to the control room and showed me the other side of policing. Then COVID hit, but we stayed in contact. There was opportunity to join the team as an apprentice doing business admin, and I was successful and joined the team in March 2022. Ramel, who was my youth worker, is now my colleague. Sorry, there's the next one. Then an opportunity came up as a youth outreach worker. Of course I applied. I was successful in May 2023, and I work solely with females who have or been in similar situations as me, and I absolutely loved the job. The referrals for female rocketed and the engagement with young people had improved dramatically. My work was recognised in the first Violence Against Women and Girls Recognition event in London, where I won a national award for helping children and young people affected by VOG. It was one of the best days of my life, seeing my parents smile and how proud they are of me. In relation to the case where I was filmed being sexually assaulted whilst asleep, has only gone to court 6 years later. I was failed by the Met as a victim of crime and was forgotten. A case in which all evidence was there was left on a shelf for 6 whole years. I managed to get it to court last year with him facing 6 to 8 years in prison. However, once we got caught, I was let down again. The judge gave him a 2-year suspended sentence. I understand that this is a form of conviction, but not to the standard of anyone who had been violently sexually assaulted should have to accept. He brought a suitcase and knew he was going to prison, but obviously not. I was absolutely devastated with the result and felt like giving up on everything, but I knew I have to return to Nottingham and work with vulnerable young girls and face them. How could I support them if I've given up? This gave me the fire to push on, and I submitted a form to the Court of Appeal. I attended this looking at 3 judges who held the power and the next steps in my life in their hands. I had to relieve the trauma and listen to the evidence. It was the most terrifying 3 hours of my life. Once the judges left to decide what he should face, I could literally crawl under the desk screen. They came back in the room and they sentenced him to 3.5 years in prison. I could have collapsed. The relief was indescribable. I did it. I know I'm part of a very small percentage of victims that see a conviction, therefore I'm very blessed and thankful. My role now is to support young people by sharing my story, giving them the confidence to face their perpetrators, build their self-esteem and provide girls with all the tools they need to be a woman in today's society. Let's see if we can skip through. These are some of the things that I did as in youth outreach, dressed up. We did cadets in Bulwell. No, it's fine, you keep going. Did the Live Our Best Life Awards. We did Glowworm, and then we did some tours around HQ. This is one of my young people. I did art. I took them to trampolining. These are my parents. This is where I won my national award. I was invited to London. It was amazing. So I'm currently a senior youth support worker for the cluster properties at YMCA. I support young people to find long-term accommodation, build their independence, and provide them with support with mental health and substance misuse. We had a dress up as if you were 18. That was only 5 years ago for me, but I did big hoops and stuff. But yeah, I currently oversee 2 cluster properties, 12 young people, and then 3 young people in court. I am thankful to Ramel, who had believed in me as a young person and gave me the opportunities to be where I am now. I honestly don't know how I could ever repay you for everything you've done for me. I'm thankful to my parents for being so supportive, having my back when I fall, and know I could be a little crazy, but at the end of the day, you still show me love and support. Lastly, I'm thankful to my son, Kazik, who sadly passed away in my arms in 2021 at 1 month old, for showing me how precious life can be and that every day should be celebrated. And this is a conclusion to say that I've been through challenges that could have broken me, but instead they built me. I stand here today not because life has been easy, but because I've learned how to overcome what once felt possible. My purpose is rooted in my journey. I've committed my life to sharing my story and using my experiences to support vulnerable young people who are facing the same challenges I once did. Through this work, I aim to create hope, provide guidance, and help them see a future beyond their current circumstances. Thanks. Wow.